Welcome to Corona Perch and the Existential. Oh no. Welcome to Corona Perch and the Existential Cowboy in the ever-growing void that'll only cloak us eternal dread. Phase 1. I'm Liam. This is Eric. Let's
Hey
get
there,
right
guys.
into it.
What is our topic today?
Our topic today is talking about Fan Expo and I guess more generally conventions.
Yes, we so today's Saturday. We're recording on Saturday, but we went to Fan Expo yesterday. Fan
Which-
Expo Canada.
It's Friday.
Today's Friday?
No.
Oh, the Expo.
Yeah.
Expo's Friday, yeah. Today's Saturday, so yeah, we just gone yesterday. It was a really good time, so I guess quick disclaimer. It was a fun time. Liam and I haven't done an expo in a very long time. And by that I mean like we've been working conventions, but we haven't gone to one just for fun.
Yeah.
In a while. So we kind of decided we should probably, relax a little bit. We've had a long month or so. And All Cherry Anthology is just completed now. It's going to be printing soon. By the time you're reading this, it might even be in the works and ready to purchase soon.
Yeah.
And then I was working on the fashion magazine, so that's finally done. And then, with all this other stuff too. So it's just been a long month. So we decided to go for fun. Our friend lives in Toronto, so we got to visit him. It was a good time.
Yep.
There were just some things that we wanted to talk about our experience, because this is kind of our little visual audio diary of what we do, right, at All Cherry, and our lives, to show that we're human. But we wanted to talk about some things that we had noticed having gone to an expo or con as civilians for the first time in a while.
And I would also like to add the disclaimer that we might be doing some heavy critiques on Fan Expo itself. And it's not that we love going there and we seeing the community and all of this together, but I think something that a lot of people don't do nowadays is they critique what is good, right?
Yeah.
I think critiquing what is good is just as important in critiquing what is, I guess, bad. Good and bad are relative terms, obviously, but we sort of see Fan Expo as great and most people enjoy it and have a really good time and they go around and it's fun, but I think it's always fine to critique.
Well, and you know what? Another way to explain this is it's not even just Expo that we're going to be talking about. It's going to be the way community or society, at least in our art world, interacts with each other and works with each other or whatever, not just at Expo, at other cons and other events and whatever. And just things have been very weird in the last 3-4 years. I'm sure we all know that. And stuff has changed. Stuff has accelerated. It's gotten a little harder. It's just things that we've noticed we'd like to discuss.
And also, we're doing this as perspective from, I guess, company owners and artists, especially people like that.
Customers.
And obviously, other people, well, we're talking about it from our perspective, right?
Of course, yeah.
That's all we can do. And I would recommend that, please reach out to us in the comment section. Tell us about your experiences with Fan Expo, whether they line up with ours or not. We'd really appreciate to hear your insight because we want to learn.
Well, that's the other thing too, is we're not just here to explain what we think, but we're here to listen to what you say and understand what you're saying, because we are going to be talking about how we, as people who have worked at a booth as well as customers going to a booth, experience things. But we want to know the cosplayer's perspective. We want to know the
collector,
the whatever, like all these different people that go are going to have a different thing to say than we do.
Yeah.
So
enough dilly-dallying. Let's get into it.
Oh, yes. Enough distraction. Well, let's see. So I had some notes written here in my phone.
Yeah.
That I'd like to start with. So
scripted show.
We're scripted. Oh my god. We're breaking away from our usual stuff. What's going on?
Oh no.
I don't know if I like that.
Anyways.
I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I thought about it, but I don't want to. The first thing I wrote down for us to discuss, because we were talking last night when we got back from Expo, and we kind of paused and we were like, wow, we need to record tomorrow.
Yep.
Like, this has to happen. It's important. So the first thing I wrote down was mindless consumerism. Yes. I am not going to sugarcoat it. I don't think we should. Now, what we can do is define that and even reword it.
Sure.
Tell me what you're thinking. He's not thinking.
I would like, actually, let's hear yours first, because I think what you have to say about it is a lot more interesting than me.
Let me explain Expo first. And I will say again, this is not a personal attack to Expo or anything. I did enjoy it, and it was really nice to go, even just to see friends and go to Toronto. We don't go to Toronto often. It's a couple hours away from where we are. So, but being at Expo, it was so busy. It was like unbelievably busy. and it was Friday. So if you guys are there today on well, it would have been last Saturday, I guess, since you're watching on a Wednesday. I hope it went well, but it was just nuts. So we went, and it was a point where we were like squished. We were going like this through every crowd, and at one point, people were pushing. People were. I heard some people getting angry.
Yep.
It was just. It was really sad to be in. I felt like I was being herded around, and I wanted to go see some friends. People that were running booths, blah blah blah. I know some people that work there, so I went over to go find them. I couldn't find them. It was a sea of people, and it just a sea of, oh my god, I don't even know, because I was looking around and I'm like, is anyone buying anything? And I remember watching, because when we got to Artist Alley, which is kind of our spot, right, where we usually are, it's where I want to see all you guys. I was looking around. I'm like, I don't think anyone's stopping to like buy anything.
Yep.
I'm not saying you have to buy anything. It's just like, I don't know, interact with the artists, check out what they have. I feel like it was just people getting in a crowd. Well, you know what? I'll tell you what it felt like, because it was what we were doing. We'd get in the crowd and then we just wanted to get out. We'd be in the crowd and I'm like, I just want to get out of here. It was so full. And the reason I bring up mindless consumerism for that is because the only thing I saw people stopping, like jumping over hurdles of people to get to, was anime and fan art.
Yep.
And there is nothing wrong with that. This is going to be a very complex, weird topic today.
Absolutely.
It's going to be hard because as people who are making things that are new and original and kind of breaking boundaries of what pop culture has right now, for example, and I've said this the last 3 episodes, Spider-Man fan art.
Yep.
And the Barbie movie just came out, and and I haven't seen it, and I'm not gonna say it's bad because Barbie's friggin' awesome. I love
Yep.
Barbie. Let's say that right now. I watched all the Barbie movies when I was a kid. My
Yep.
sister and I know you're watching, my sister, and we watched Barbie. But that's about all I saw. Were people that I know were able to do more or had such cool new ideas, and instead they took, let's say, a big pop culture thing right now, and they sold that.
Yep.
Which is okay as well. But it's almost fueling this thing that we want to talk about, and what it is the fact that you pay to come here, ignore anything that's new or fun or different, and kind of just collect stuff you don't really need. And this is where
Yes.
it's going to get complex. And I don't know. Do you have anything to add on to that? It's so hard to explain.
I'll take it from here.
It's like crazy. I could go off. Continue.
Yeah. So it's an interesting idea,
Yes.
right? Because when you are this consumer and you're paying to go and see artists and creators and people who make things that are similar to your interests, I think it's very important for expression, right?
Expression is a big one we're going to talk about today.
Yes.
Because that's what it all really is expression.
Yeah, and you should be able to, I think everybody should be able to express themselves
Of course.
in a way that feels great to them.
Yeah.
But what I sometimes we talked about this last night. So I wanted to cosplay.
Yes.
And I've always been thinking about, I've always wanted to really just make like a really high quality cosplay and just like show up and people be like, wow, that looks awesome. You must have put a lot of effort into it. I'm like, thank you. I did. And I only think about like the characters that I would want to cosplay or think would be cool to cosplay. I would show up and there would be 20 other of them there.
Yeah.
And it's, once again, it's not a necessarily bad thing.
No.
But I feel like I would want to cosplay something more original that would represent who I am instead. And then if I see somebody who's wearing the same costume, I would I'd be like, wow, doing the same cosplay. It's like, wow, yeah, this is actually something we genuinely share, other than, you know, when you see hundreds of cosplays from the same show.
You know what it was like
Sure.
in high school when Suicide Squad came out, and every single person dressed up as Harley Quinn for Halloween. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
In high school, Suicide Squad came out, and every single girl and guy there, I swear, they all dressed up as Harley Quinn. And
Yep.
it's like, okay, that's great. I was like, is there anything else? Is there more?
So this is where we get into the complexity of it, right?
Yeah.
Because the thing that's wrong with it isn't necessarily that everybody is dressing up as Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
But it's the fact when you add this sort of not a lot of intentionality into dressing up as Harley Quinn.
Intentionality.
And I'm not necessarily saying you need to have a deep level of intentionality to
No.
do so, but I feel like a mass of people dressing up without a lot of intentionality is a negative consequence for the art world.
That's where we want to get into it, because the people who are dressing up as Harley Quinn, and this is just our example, they probably love Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
Well, we would hope they love Harley Quinn. They're not just going, ooh, like a skimpy outfit, I'll wear that or whatever. And we know people that would do that, but it's still like it is still, oh, Harley Quinn's awesome and Harley Quinn is awesome. And I'm gonna dress up as them. Okay, great. It's more so the fact that this herded usage of this one pop culture event almost disregards the rest of what could be acknowledged, of
Yeah.
what is important in the art world to be acknowledged and isn't being acknowledged.
Sure.
And Suicide Squad is passed. Okay, Harley Quinn's gone. But you know what isn't gone is when I go to Expo, and I bet you most people are there to buy these little, I don't know, anime knickknacks that they're probably going to
Yeah.
throw in their closet. And it's like, okay, great. If you want to spend your money like that and your time, great. That's okay, fine. But when you get to people that are like really passionate about what they're doing and they're not able to break through this wall of pop culture, it's so weird, because it's grown so big now that
Yeah.
that it's something we need to discuss, because it isn't a bad thing. Like you said, it's expression, it's enjoyment of what you like, blah
Yes.
blah blah, but it's gotten so large and so soulless that it's just,
Yeah.
it builds a wall.
And again, community, the community surrounding media and art is phenomenal. There are many, many, many amazing people who gather together and put a lot of hard work and talent into making a cosplay. And it's amazing. Community is what dr- drives us to continue to be better.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we don't have standards for ourselves, really, because we want to be better for our communities, I would argue.
Yep.
However, it's especially now with, I think Amazon has something big to do with it.
Okay.
I'd like to hear some cosplayers' thoughts on this. That you can order just a fully made cosplay and have it shipped to your door and then just put it on and go for it.
That's true.
You don't where I feel like the cosplay community used to be a lot more, you custom make everything and you do all these sorts of stuff and you make it yourself
Yeah.
rather than just order it and then put it on and then show up. Because I would say that that is something nowadays that I feel like a lot of people do, because it's hard to put a lot of effort into something, and maybe that's also an economic thing, right?
That's the other thing too. But this is what I've always said in my head. I've never really expressed it. It's the globalization of things that have made this world. It's made us question this stuff, because back in the day, you needed a clock, you'd go see the clockmaker. You know, a bad example, but it's the way I'm thinking. Is it's like you got your small towns when the world wasn't so connected. If you needed something done, it was a craft. You
Yep.
didn't just go buy it off Amazon, which was molded and made like the same thing every time.
Yep.
You had craftsmanship, which is where us artists shine, is craftsmanship. But when it's so tailored towards, I hate to say it, when it's tailored towards the goldfish brain of so quickly, like the companies know they can reel someone in doing a specific thing, a certain thing, and it makes them the money. Done.
Mhm.
It outshines craftsmanship. And that's the complexity of this, because craftsmanship is it's rare and it's not rare now. I don't even know.
I would say that's another aspect of the complexity
Yes.
of this, and I think this leads into one of our other topics that we want to bring up, which was impulsivity. And I think
Yeah.
impulsivity is something that, well, let's talk about impulsivity at conventions.
Yep.
I would say that even for us,
Oh my gosh, we need to say that. We were a victim of all this.
Yeah.
It's just how it is. We're adding towards this. We're just
Yeah.
aware of it. I was a victim of impulse buying yesterday.
Sure. Well, I don't think victim's exactly the right word.
Maybe
I think
not.
we are all subject
Subject.
to impulse buying, and for us, it's both as consumers and producers.
Sure.
I would say that a lot of people, we're able to explain Eric's comics and talk about how he wrote them and stuff. But at this point, we're not big enough that we sort of rely on people to impulse buy our work, or Eric's work more. It's not exactly mine. Taking credit. Um,
People
to
like The Crow.
people like the Crow.
They impulse love The Crow.
They
Continue.
impulse love the Crow. But
We brought The Crow.
the point is that yeah, we rely on impulse buying, and I think that's a problematic thing when it comes to the community nature of these really big cons. Is that there are people from all over who come to this one con because I think it's one of the two that happens in Canada for Fan Expo, right?
It's huge. Yeah. Well, it's one of the. It is the big one.
So, and then obviously, it's very difficult to navigate making an extremely large community without a lot of community ties.
Yeah.
And I would say that the most fun I had yesterday was going and hanging out with the artists, and we have a photographer friend
Yeah.
that we already knew.
Because we knew we'd get the result of community from it. And that's why I was excited to see. I didn't even get to see everybody, and you know who you are because I told you I was going to go see you, and I couldn't because there was just it was a huge crowd of people just looking for another Spider-Man drawing. I hate that I keep using that reference, but it's kind of funny. They kept looking for, oh, well, Spider-Verse 2 came out. My favorite artist drew it, which is so cool. Or maybe it wasn't even a favorite artist. They just liked how it looked, and that is also awesome. What we're trying to do is more so promote the creativity and originality of someone as well as keeping community rather than relying on that's another big thing is when we have a booth, we have to rely on impulse buying.
Yep.
Because no one knows who we are. Well, people do actually, but people not some strangers might not, and that's okay. But when you have to rely on impulse buying, but then you've got the people that are selling all the anime stuff across the way, they're not coming to us.
Yep.
Right? And we're also not saying you have to come to us, but it's just
And I think impulsivity feeds into comfortability. You can
that's another. Hey, we talked about comfortability last episode.
yeah, so there's sort of two sides of the coins of impulsing, right?
Yeah.
Because there's impulse buying something you don't really know that well but you connect with.
Yeah.
But then there's also impulse buying when it comes to, oh my gosh, this is my favorite character in X show,
Yeah.
and they have this really cool pin slash poster slash artwork slash figurine slash prop slash whatever of them. I want it. And I think that the models, they FanX, like big cons like that, can really take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
They could take advantage that people want things, right?
But it all comes back to things.
Yeah.
Everyone has things, and you know what? Liam and I actually noticed this a couple months ago. We had a yard sale to try and sell some stuff because there's things, and you don't need things, but you express yourself with things.
Yes.
So, and we were actually talking about this yesterday. Moderation comes back into this from episode 2.
Yep.
Can you moderate your things? I think so. And is it bad to have too many things? Is it bad to have too little things? Really, it comes to being truthful with yourself and what you're willing to do with your expression, I guess.
Yes. And I think and obviously this again goes differently with different people. Certain people might express themselves in more minimalistic ways. They might express themselves by having a clean room with not a lot to it, and you know, it's very neat and tidy. But then some people might like to have a large collection of something
Yeah.
to express themselves, and that's something they're proud of.
Mm-hmm.
And
Proud.
what we're trying to do here, and what we're trying to sort of discuss and find the middle ground here, is that how do we allow expression to continue in whatever way the person wants to express themselves as, but we also navigate the popular culture of what most people watch and most people like, while still allowing them to like those things,
Yeah.
but also promoting other things to them and give them more choices on what to talk about, right?
You know what?
And how to express themselves.
I didn't bring this up yesterday because I just realized that after you'd said it. It might just be being proud. Because I'll give you an example. I remember years ago, and I will say I don't remember feeling this way a while ago, like maybe let's say 4 years ago when we went to cons. We were younger and we were less into this business aspect of the world, because when you get in the behind the scenes of this stuff, your perspective changes,
Yep.
obviously. But let's say, for example, when Overwatch came out, I was like, oh my God, I love Overwatch. Diva is my main. I love
Yep.
playing Diva. I just love being the tank. It's a fun character to play, blah, blah, blah. I bought the Diva pop doll. I remember when I went to pop figurine. When I went
Yep.
to Niagara Falls Con, I bought a bunch of Diva fan art. And it was so cool. I'm like, man, these artists are amazing, blah, blah, blah. And I got home, and I remember a couple days later, I looked at that art, and I hadn't hung it up or anything. I had put it in my closet. And I remember going, I had this, it was almost like the blood drained out of my body. It was like this, oh, I spent money on that. And I'm thinking about it. I'm like, well, I can't do much now. Like, I bought it.
Yep.
Was I proud of the purchase? Not really. Yet when I bought it, I was so in it. I'm like, yes, there it is. That's what I want. And then I got home and I went, oh, what? Did I need that? Should I have bought that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what? And really, another question comes, what was I going to do with my money anyway? That's a whole other topic. But still,
Sure.
was I proud of the purchase? And that almost can maybe not give us an answer to the problem, but at least get us further into this question of expression and when it might be too much or too little, I guess, or fueling a community properly, or just creating a herd of people that are just impulse buying. Are you proud of your purchase? When you go to an expo and you know you want to buy an anime figurine,
Yeah.
but you just bought this character, you bought like 3 of these anime figurines, you get home and you're like, shoot, like, did I need to buy all that? I love this character, but there goes all my money.
Mm-hmm.
That might be it.
It's an interesting issue, right? Because how do you balance an individual desire with, I guess, expectations of society? And we're getting pretty big here, but what
Yeah.
my point I'm trying to get at is that very basically, you have an obligation to society to work, to contribute, and to do all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
But there are ways you might want to express yourselves outside the collective. And again, I think what you're trying to get at here is that there is very much a middle ground to this, that it's you should obviously you should consume in a responsible way that
Responsible.
say, hey, you know, think about what you want before you go to a con.
Or even just
Maybe.
stop in your tracks and think, why am I about to buy this?
Mm-hmm.
Because I even almost, let's say, this is a different example. I almost bought, there were actually a lot of record boots, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And there was Working Man's Dead by Grateful Dead. I love Grateful Dead. It is not one of my favorite albums by them. I almost bought it. Why? I don't need that album. It's if I had to pick an album, it wouldn't have been that one. I
Yep.
almost bought it, and I stopped myself and I said, "Am I just buying this because I want to buy it? Like I just want to buy it? Like I knew I wouldn't really listen to it,
Mm.
but I love Grateful Dead. Let's say another example is you love this this show. You already have 5 of these figurines of this character. Do you need another one?
And to some people, the answer might be yes.
And that's
Because
totally
the answer
okay.
might be like, I've got 5 out of 6. This is the one I've been looking for a couple of years.
Sure.
It's like, oh, wow, they actually have it. That's
But you'd be
awesome.
proud of that purchase
Yes, you
because
would.
you were looking for it. You wanted that. You know you wanted that. You didn't just want it, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like we're zooming out a little far.
I don't think so.
Really?
Because so let's take this around, because I think we can go somewhere with pride, and we can flip it around to vendors.
Okay. Tell me. Because I was going to say we could go on to a different topic in order to
Sure.
zoom in. However,
Yeah.
if you think we're zooming out, well, keep going.
Yeah, let's go with this. Let's talk to vendors. As a vendor, obviously, you're proud of what you've created. I am proud of what I'm creating.
Yep.
We are fine with selling our product because we are proud of it. I can't help but wonder how many of the vendors at Fan Expo. Oh,
Oh, we're going to have to show our drawing again.
show our drawing.
Do you want me? I'll fix it.
We are back. So,
Hey, people,
anyways,
sorry about that.
vendors. So, about vendors, how many of them are very proud of what they sell? And they sell what they sell with full passion. And now I have to clarify, full passion doesn't mean they're going to be like happy go lucky all the time,
No,
like happy, happy, yes, yes, bye. I'm so proud of this. But I
I have a
can't,
way to describe it.
like you said before, there are some people who make things just because they think they will be popular. And they could they be proud of the fact that it's selling because it's popular? I think they could. But for me, that doesn't sit right.
Are they proud of the product sale or are they proud of the sale?
Aha.
That's what it would come down to. And then the question is,
So
what's right and wrong?
so say the difference between the product sale and the sale.
I will tell you the difference. If I sold Wendy and the Sprite Chapter Zero,
Yep.
and this has happened, I have sold it to a child who is like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what this is. And they're like, this is so fun. This is so cute. I love this character. I remember one time I had a kid jump on my table because she was so excited to buy Wendy Zero. And I could literally, I don't know if I ever told you that. She jumped on the table and she almost wrecked the display. She was having so much fun.
That's so
But she was
cute.
having a blast and her mom was like, get off. And I'm like, no, like, let her jump. I don't care if she likes Wendy. That's great. I didn't care because I was so proud that this person, this kid was like, they found something that they enjoyed or connected with or just loved to want to have.
Yeah.
Even if it was just the cover. I made this kid's day.
Yep.
If I sold an illustration of Samus from Metroid and I love Metroid, I'd probably be less proud. I'm so glad that you love my art because you like the art style, but what about it was mine aside from the fact that I drew it?
Yeah.
And that could even get different though, because if I sold a figurine of Samus from Metroid, I'd feel even less proud. I made the money. Great. Now I can go buy a chocolate bar later, but that wasn't mine. I didn't make that figurine.
This goes the exact same way with 3D printing. Is that Creative Commons is a license on a lot of publicly present designs
Yep.
online, in that there are people who shamelessly sell other people's work.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, ever since I've started printing, I've just been like, this doesn't feel right. The only thing I've ever sort of given to other people that have been made by other people is I've given them as gifts because I think they will like them, and I've used other people's ideas. For me, I'm starting to learn how to design things on my own, so then I can feel proud that I put in the work, the effort to learn how to do it, even if it was somebody else's. Well, and even then, if it's somebody else's thing, I don't feel comfortable selling it. I feel like I feel a lot more comfortable sharing it with the world,
Yeah.
saying, "Hey, I made this variation on this person's design to reflect a certain other character's trait or something."
Yeah.
Like, for example, I made a different katana hilt
Yeah.
to reflect this character's katana. So then I wonder about this. Do people go to sleep at night thinking, yeah, I sold my own art of somebody else's work and people loved it, so that's great, but it's my work, but it's not.
The question is fueling a community with degrees of pride is what I'd like to say it is.
Interesting.
Let's say, and this is just for the sake of simplicity, there are 3 degrees of pride. There is, I am proud of this original work. I am proud of this originally designed, maybe not designed, originally created work of someone else's creation.
Mm-hmm.
And I am proud of someone else's creation.
Right.
So I sold my own space character. I sold a drawing of someone else's space character, Samus, or I sold a figurine of Samus. What is good and bad about that? That's where things get weird because what we can say makes sense, but like, why? And I'm going to explain what
Mm-hmm.
All's Cherry is in order to give you why this is our bias on this topic. All's Cherry is all about showing off originality. It has always come down to
That is our
two
core.
words: candidness and originality. That is, it's what I've always done as an artist. It's what Liam does as an artist. It's just how it works, because this is what we think is one of the most important things in art is originality.
Yep.
Whenever something crazy happens or something new or something whatever, it's from originality.
It usually happens because something's new.
Yeah, and you know what? And I can make fun of the Spider-Man fan art 100 times, but when Spider-Man came out, oh my gosh, like this new thing, Spider-Man? What are you talking about? Like this guy's climbing on walls, he's shooting webs out of his wrists. That's new at the time.
Yeah.
And that's so cool. And you know what? If you like that, that's fantastic. I love Spider-Man. But there's where it gets wacky is how far can it go? And where's the pride from it? Because the pride when it was created, that's awesome. How far it's gotten, that's awesome. But I just feel like people are potential of so much more than just taking someone else's idea. And that's where All's Cherry comes in, is it's showing that the person has so much more to give than just, I shouldn't say rip off, but ripping off someone else's idea in order to make money.
Absolutely. Because, creating something brand new is one of the hardest things you can do. I would say, because you have to take something that um you have to make it not recognizable, really. That's the hardest part of it. And it's really easy to say that, but
Yeah.
it's hard to make something that people don't recognize nowadays because, again, we go back to the global culture. We have artists all over the world that can produce works, and other people from the other side of the world can see those works.
Yeah.
So
Which
it
is so
almost,
cool.
and I think this is one of the big things why we're starting All's Cherry, because we want to do this, is because when we can see things from all over the world, what's ever new?
Seriously, what is ever new?
What is new?
And you know what? I almost want to divert the topic a bit because I have something on my mind.
Sure.
Cosplaying. Cosplaying is so cool when you do it crazy good, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's where taking someone else's work gets a bit confusing, but doesn't. Because, for example, and I don't know their name, and I apologize, I should, because my friend is friends with them. But the Iron Man that goes around
Yes.
in Toronto, Niagara Falls, and all that, he goes to all the big cons. Built this freaking Iron Man suit all by him. I don't know if it's all by himself, but he made it out of like metal and stuff. It
Yep.
works. It moves around. It's got electronics. That is so flippin' cool.
Yeah.
So you may ask, how does that relate into these rules of pride? Well, okay, I guess let's say it's the second degree of pride. You've taken someone else's work and done something with it yourself. But what he didn't go on Amazon and buy those stupid mesh suits of Iron Man.
Yeah.
He friggin' built this suit. That shows craftsmanship.
Yes.
And you know what? Pride and craftsmanship is almost the two things we want to talk about
And
here.
I don't think this is diverting on the topic. I think it's tying it nicely
Yeah?
with a little bow. I think craftsmanship is what allows somebody to be proud of using somebody else's work.
Sure. Yes. You know what? Yeah. That's so interesting too. Because I guess, for example, is if someone drew Spider-Man, great. But if you made a life-size sculpture of Spider-Man out of frickin', I don't know, chewing gum.
Tin cans.
You made it out of tin cans connected together with chewing gum.
There we go.
And I'm like, man, that's disgusting. But whoa, that's so cool. I'm like, dude,
disgusting.
you've got, hey, you got tin cans all connected together. There's saliva coming off of them. There's chewing gum connecting tin cans. But man, the craftsmanship, you must be second degree proud. But that would change the topic.
Right. Because this differentiates people who just draw Spider-Man and the people who draw a completely new Spider-Man based off of some sort of new Spider-Verse character that is completely original.
That is another thing I've noticed.
Sure.
Not many people are doing this, but smart. I like this. Instead of drawing Gwen from the Spider-Verse or Miles, people are taking the idea of Spider-Verse and just making their own Spider-Man. That's cool.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why that's cool, because you have then taken craftsmanship with second degree pride. You've said, I'm going to take this idea and I'm going to make it my own. And you've made something different, you've made something original, and you've made something with soul. Frig, I love seeing people's different Spider-Verse characters that didn't exist until now. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's such a good example.
And what we want to say here is that if you like to draw Spider-Man, you shouldn't be discouraged.
Of course not.
But what I'm saying, in fact, if you like to draw and you want to draw characters for yourselves, you absolutely should.
Great practice.
It absolutely, yeah. But when you go to sell it, I feel like the sense of pride is difficult.
It is. And I don't even think people are very what's the word? Attentive to it. They just kind
Yes.
of do it. But that's the thing, is it's kind of accepted now. You go to Expo and that's about all you see,
It's
or a
sort
Comic Con.
it is almost mindless on both ways. That
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, sure, you put in a lot of work to create a well drawn out picture of Miles or a well drawn out picture of Peter Parker or
Yeah.
whatever, but then you rely almost on, well, it's not even mindlessness. I think this is a really interesting conversation because
We were so excited to record this today because it gets very in depth.
people can absolutely love Spider-Man, and it's not our business if they absolutely want to buy Spider-Man fan art. It's, I guess, we just like to promote original work.
I think I know what it is.
Sure, let's hear it.
I grew up listening to Metallica.
Mm-hmm.
I was known as the kid that listened to Metallica. I went to a Catholic school, and well, you're not metal wasn't really a thing you listened to, but I grew up listening to Metallica, and that's all I listened to up until frig. Oh my gosh, grade like 6, and then I realized there's more than just Metallica. But how did I? Oh my god, I lost my train of thought.
I think I know where you're going. It's this idea that there is more than Metallica.
There's more, and I grew up hearing the words or the sentence, "Rock is dying" or "Metal is dying," and all we've got is Metallica. And what's really cool is I kind of believe that rock and metal were dying, or whatever. Music that had intentionality was dying because
Yeah.
pop is huge, and that's a whole other topic we'll go into another time probably. Is music like that? But Metallica, I was like, oh, all I got are the '80s because nothing nowadays is good. And then I started listening to Giz. I'm a huge King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard fan.
Yep.
I've got 2 tapes on the table actually. And I was like, rock is not dying.
No.
It's so there.
Yeah.
But you know where it is? It's way over there. People can't see it. And I think that's what we're worried about almost. Maybe not worried, but like we're trying to make sure that rock isn't dying. We don't want originality in art that has intention to die just because this monolith of frickin' anime is right in front of it.
Yep.
That's, I think, what it is. Because there's nothing wrong with liking Spider-Man and wanting to collect all these Spider-Man things and whatever. But just don't forget about the other ones.
And I think the big thing is this, is that sometimes people can get comfortable with a series and will want to just stick with it because it's what they know.
Yeah.
But sometimes what you know gets stale and it gets boring. And sometimes I think it's necessary to move on and to try something new and to watch something new. I, for one, I'm not one to rewatch series.
Yeah.
I watch the series, they're done. I wish there was more to it, but then eventually I move. I move to another series. Then I watch another series and I listen to a different story. And I guess this is part of my motivation for being knowledge cherry is because I like to hear different stories.
Yeah.
And I sort of question why people are continually obsessed with the same stories over and over again.
That's another weird topic, at least for the comic book industry.
Sure.
Because comics are still alive and well, sort of. Most comic stores sell oldies because people just want the oldies because they're collectors, or those old stories were better than the new ones or whatever. But most people are collectors because of the money or the investment, and that's just how it is, right? Oh,
Yep.
if you can find Transformers 1 to 4 when it was owned by this company, that you're in luck, right? And those are cool books. But either way, most people, and this is how books work, buy for the cover. They don't usually buy for flipping through the inside. They buy for the cover. And that's why people who make comic covers really got to figure out what they're doing.
Yep.
Or even in a sense, there's variant covers or blah, blah, blah. And I am a product of this. I really like the design for Silk, the Spider-Man character. her covers are cool. And I remember finding Silk covers and buying so many Silk comics last year because I was like, man, those covers are cool. I have not read a single one of them.
Yep.
And that's why I stopped collecting comics, because I don't want to be buying comics simply for the cover when there's probably a really good story on the inside.
Sure.
That's where it gets weird too, is people get, that's why also people usually just buy fan art of Spider-Man and not Spider-Man comics. Unless it's a really cool cover. No one's going to read the story.
So let me propose this. Is it because nowadays it feels like a lifeless transaction? And now we're getting back into um, economical ideas
Yes.
of what if the people who you bought a Spider-Man figurine from, sure, they didn't make it.
Yeah.
But you're proud of the relationship that you have with that one store clerk who you talk to all of these.
Sure.
They're almost like they're an acquaintance because you talk about, oh man, the new Spider-Man was awesome. Did you see it? And they're like, yeah, it was awesome. Are you getting any of those figurines in from that new movie?
Mhm.
It's like, absolutely we are.
Yeah.
I've already got one ordered myself.
Yeah.
And then that's what breeds exciting conversation. And I think what one of the problems with like a big expo like Fan Expo
Mhm.
is that people don't know these artists.
No, they
And
don't.
people don't go back to the same, well, maybe they do. Let us know if you go back to the same artist every year, because that is amazing.
People, they do that.
I'm great. I'm very happy about that because that's what it's about. It's forming connections with the community.
Yes, but that's where we're worried though, because, and I would say I'm worried at least, is because you get those artists who've been there, and I know artists that have been there before. I've actually had people say, "Hey, I remember you," for Wendy and the Sprite, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. But what I'm worried about is this monolith of whatever else pop culture that will cloud newer artists. Or, great example, I went to go look for a specific artist I wanted to find. I couldn't find her. I didn't get a chance to see her because there was too many people wanting to go buy this illustration of Kirby, you know? And that's cool. I love Kirby. Pink's my favorite color. But I couldn't go find my artist
Yep.
because of this wave of people that just wanted to buy a drawing they probably don't need.
Right.
And even if they do, that's where it gets weird. But it's either way. What you're saying though is interesting though, because that's taking the mindless pop culture monolith and making it meaningful. Because, for example, Metallica, I don't listen to them very much anymore. I've found music that I personally think is much better. But if I were a Metallica fan and I went to a record store and I talked to the guy and said, "Yo, is 72 seasons? Do you guys have 72 seasons in?" And the guy goes, "72 what?" And I'm like, "Bro, like, are you just a clerk here, or do you even care, or what?" And that's okay if they don't. They're just working there.
Yep.
But there's the connection, right? Is, do they care? Are they proud of what they're doing? So when you go to an expo and you want to buy a figurine and you ask, "Do you have this figurine?" and they have no clue what you're talking about, you feel disconnected from this community, from this pop culture, and it becomes more mindless than it probably should be.
Yeah. And impulse buying isn't bad all the time as
Sure.
much as we just talked about it. But it's going to sound weird to say
So
this.
weird.
Impulse buying with intentionality is
Yeah,
what we
that's
ought
one way to
to
put it.
do.
Yeah.
Is that you ought to impulse buy something because you really, really wanted it. And I think we addressed this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is how, once again, we can sort of navigate these cons more with more mindfulness.
I would like to expand upon that because I feel like this isn't something that people really think about when they're there, is navigating with mindfulness. Because really, you go to a con and you're enjoying it. But a topic I had written down that I think brings it up, it explains why this even came to be. So I wrote down, I felt like a sheep the whole day.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we were sitting in this sea of people, and I didn't even really get to look. Actually, we barely looked at Artist Alley because there were so many people, and I don't think many people were looking. It made it not fun. And when we got home, the reason we wanted to talk about this and the reason we're diving so deep into it is because when we got back, we both looked at each other in the car and we were like, "What did you think?" And we were
Yep.
like, "Dude, I just felt like a drone." And I was being pushed around and I had no say in the matter. And I didn't even really get to think. It was just, I'm in here. What's there to look at? Okay, I'm out. Now what? I'm too tired. I don't even care anymore. And that's why this came up, and that's why we're delving so deep into it, because I feel like we should be there and have fun and care.
Yeah.
And this isn't targeting Expo. This is just the idea that in this world where pop culture is getting so big, and buying a knickknack is so not necessary, but it's so apparent now of just buying things we don't need. I felt like a sheep.
Yeah, especially I and maybe it's because we were younger. I don't know, but the very first fan expo I went to, it felt amazing. It felt like there was a community with people all together. It wasn't just about buying things. It was about getting together with people who had similar interests and celebrating those interests. But now I guess, well, maybe it is because we got older that we sort of run our own stands now, that all of the people around there are trying to make money on selling you stuff, and it feels less about the community.
This is where it also gets really complex, and I'll give another example I
Sure.
wrote down is I had a Gizhead interaction.
Yep.
So as what you would call a Gizhead, a fan of King Giz, the band King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, I met actually a couple of people who I was wearing a Giz shirt. I got people complimenting my shirt, and I was really tired. It's been a very long month, and I was very tired, but I was there to have fun. So I'm kind of exhausted. But whenever someone brought up Giz, and I had a lot of people actually bring it up, I was I was like inspired. I was like, oh my gosh, someone who likes Giz. That's so cool because it's niche. Giz is getting much larger now, but it's niche. And I didn't expect to talk to anyone about Giz there. And one person was telling me about how they just went to a concert, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Ran into 3 other people who were showing me their tattoos, and it was like, oh my gosh, you have an Infest the Rat's Nest tattoo? That's so cool. I'm like, I'm getting my Giz tattoo soon, which I am. And it was so fun to talk about. And I was having more fun interacting with these people in a niche community than talking to another Spider-Man booth. And I think that's where it changes. And it's almost the same with, let's say, video games. I remember growing up, if you played video games, you were a nerd.
Yep.
You're not really a nerd anymore unless you play like a lot of video games. Because I remember growing up, it was, oh, you're a nerd, you play video games. And then I remember halfway through school, oh, everybody plays video games. Everybody's played Minecraft. Everybody's played a Call of Duty. You're not a nerd. You're
Yeah.
normal. Oh, but you play Terraria. You're a nerd. Like
Oh, you
it.
play Civilization 6? You're a nerd.
Oh, you play WoW. You're a nerd.
Yep.
The more niche it was, the nerdier you were. But more niche was more fun. And when let's say I don't wear much Metallica shirts, but they're my chill shirts. So if I'm wearing a Metallica shirt and someone says I love your shirt, I kind of go thanks. Someone sees my Giz shirt, I'm like, oh my god, you love Giz? Me too. Like
And it's
that's
very
what it is.
that's an interesting thing to talk about, because WoW is short for World of Warcraft, and
Did I say WoW?
yeah, you did.
Oh, you
Um
guys, you don't know what WoW is? What the heck?
it's a very big important part of my life. It's a game that I played for a lot of my years, and I always find that when I see somebody who plays that game, I'm able to have such a good conversation with them because it almost feels like we're few and far between.
It's still a little more niche than it was.
I and I but I think we're on to something here again,
Yeah,
because when your interactions are far in between, the interactions feel that much better.
they're more meaningful.
They're more meaningful. And I think here's, I guess, another question. Can pop culture interactions with all of these different people be more meaningful? Can, let's say, if I want to have a conversation with somebody else about One Piece and there are 100 people talking about One Piece, can those conversations be meaningful or not?
I might have an example.
Sure.
Let's say I'm going to say Sailor Moon and not Spider-Man this time.
Sure.
Let's say, because even Sailor Moon, at least I guess at an expo, is less niche than WoW.
Of course.
Because it's known, everyone watched Sailor Moon, at least seen it. Let's say I drew a Sailor Moon illustration. Someone came to my booth and went, "Oh my God, Sailor Moon!" I know I'd go, "Oh yeah, I love Sailor Moon." But if someone went to my booth and said, "Oh my gosh, Eric Allsbury," and then they get there and they go, "You drew Sailor Moon," that is already more of a meaningful conversation. And that's because they didn't acknowledge the pop culture that I drew. They acknowledged my artwork. It isn't just Sailor Moon, it's a piece of art.
Hmm.
That's at least, and I know it kind of changed from your One Piece example, but that's
Sure.
how I as an artist would have seen it. Is it's become more meaningful if they acknowledge the more niche thing involving it.
So we can go deeper on this as well. It's you like this character.
Mm-hmm.
If you like if you just don't like the most popular character and you actually
Yeah,
take some time, like I'm going to cosplay this character because
that's
I
interesting.
like their character traits and I like their story. I like how they came from
Yeah.
this, and this feels very similar to me. And then this is where I think gender bends are super cool.
Okay.
Gender bent
I would
cosplays.
agree. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
To those who don't know what I'm talking about, it's basically when a female character gets transformed by a male cosplayer into how they would think that character would look if they identified as male.
There were a bunch of It ones like that, like the
Yes.
clown It. I saw a couple girls dressed as like a more female version of It, and they looked so cool. And
Yeah.
they did such a good job changing it up. And that's you talked about augmentation a while ago. That's a topic
Yes.
we'll have for an episode, I'm sure. But continue.
And even that, I think that's taking the second degree of what were
Pride.
you talking about?
Yeah,
What
the 3 degrees of pride.
the degree of pride is that you could be proud that you align with this character's story and that you're using your own creativity to try to reimagine the character in a way that represents you.
Yeah.
And I think once again that's another thing. But at the same time, I would say I'm probably bringing this up because I've definitely thought about there's one of the female characters in One Piece, Nico Robin.
Yep.
I absolutely love her story. Her
Mhm.
story is phenomenal and I relate to it. I relate to it in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And she is probably my favorite character in that show.
Mhm.
But I feel awkward just being like, "Oh, well, I can't cosplay her. She's a female."
Sure.
But then it's like, "Well, why can't I?
Why not?
Why couldn't I? I think I could pull something off that could be really cool."
And people would really like it.
Sure.
They've probably seen the other one before.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's another thing on top of that.
Yeah.
But
Well, and another
yeah.
example we could even use is I'm going to go back to the Metallica thing again.
Mhm.
I do like Metallica, but usually a Metallica fan, because they are the biggest metal band out there, they'll know Enter Sandman and One, and that's about it. Or Master of Puppets, right? Especially from
Yeah.
Stranger Things. That's about all I can name. But when someone tells me, yeah, have you heard? You might not understand this, but like, have you heard the album Load or Reload? I'll
Yep.
go, oh my gosh, you know Load and Reload? Like, a bigger Metallica fan would know what that is, and that is thus become more niche and more community driven now, because
Yeah.
now you and I have more of a meaningful interaction in something that is very large in pop culture.
Yeah.
So even I'm going to take another dumb example that I don't know well enough, but I'm going to use it anyway. Is Genshin Impact is huge
Yep.
at cons, and you see a lot of the same cosplays. But if someone cosplayed, and I wouldn't know, as a character that no one really acknowledges in Genshin, that's pretty cool.
But an interesting thing about Genshin Impact, though, is that
Yep.
there are a diversity of characters that people like.
Yes,
There
I
are
agree.
a lot of different people. There are a lot of different characters, and what I will admit about the game and the fans
Yep.
is that it's very you can cosplay as a lot of different characters and you can represent yourself in a lot of different ways. Like I give kudos to people who actually people look at the different characters and they say I really like this character the most and they do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Actually, another good example, and I don't see a lot of this, in all honesty. I've seen a lot of Reaper cosplays from Overwatch.
Yeah.
What about a different Reaper outfit? What if, let's say, if someone cosplayed as Diva, instead of that same Amazon bought Diva outfit, you made her Black Cat outfit? That would be cool.
Or like the officer one. I think
Or the officer
I saw
one.
an officer diva yesterday.
Did
which
you
was-
actually?
Yeah,
Okay, and see,
it's
I
cool.
didn't, but man, that would have got my attention. The amount of divas I see with the same diva outfit, I'm like, oh yeah, it's fine. And sorry, if you don't know what diva is, look up DVA from Overwatch.
Yeah.
My favorite character from Overwatch. But you dress up as the officer diva, and it's already a meaningful thing.
Yes.
And you've also put second degree pride into this, because this you've put in something else. You put more into it.
Yeah.
That's what's interesting.
You've decided to go a step further
Yeah.
to yeah. Oh,
Oh, we're cut out again.
I-
We got a longer episode this time. Sorry, guys.
yeah, we do.
I'm back. Keep going. I'm going to look at our topics here.
Sure. So yeah, it's the second degree of pride and this augmentation of what you like that I think is so. I think this is what's interesting about cons. But, again, there can be a degree to this that becomes problematic, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it's, I mean, if everybody is always doing something different,
It becomes less different.
it becomes less different.
I would like
It's so
to.
weird, right? Because it's a
Yeah.
it's a balance. And it's a balance that you can't really regulate on its own, and this is really a balance that we can't really help.
And we're contributing to the balance,
Yeah,
though. What we're doing right now is contributing to the balance.
I think so.
As long as people understand originality or intention or pride, as long as they understand it, acknowledge it, or even contribute to it, we're sort of keeping a balance. The only thing that's changing things is, well, companies are changing things. Because, for example, WoW, World of Warcraft may still be fairly niche, but I mean, they made a movie. Like, it's not just the computer game that you've
Uh,
never heard of. It is now, oh, they made a movie about that,
they made it. They made a movie.
They made a movie.
They made a movie. Uh huh.
Right? For example, even as well, my mom loves Super Mario. She grew up playing Mario when it came out, right? So that was really meaningful and different for her. For me, I'm sick of seeing Mario. I'm sure she loves seeing Mario, but I'm sick of it because I grew up with Mario everywhere and they just made the Mario movie.
Yep.
So there are degrees. It's almost like we need to teach society about moderation. Somebody watch our second episode, because really that's where it is there's really new, let's say Giz when they first started.
Yep.
Then there's kind of Giz where Giz is now in the middle, and really I've already talked to some fans about it. In the next 10 years, maybe even less, Giz is going to be huge, and I know they are because they're very talented and they are getting very large.
Yep.
They're going to be huge. The question is it still going to be niche? Probably not. Maybe. I would love for it to still be niche,
But the
personally.
but the interesting thing is that is it a bad thing when it doesn't become niche anymore?
That's a good question.
And if it becomes popular, what if this is just part of a cycle of something becomes popular, people enjoy it for a while, and then they move on? Why do people have to keep trying to milk as much as they possibly can out of a single story?
Yeah, that was a big one we talked about yesterday
Yes,
in
it
the car.
was.
Marvel.
Yes, absolutely.
Marvel. I don't catch up with Marvel anymore.
Nope.
Because I don't care. But growing up with Iron Man, the Hulk, all that stuff, all the way up to Endgame was friggin' cathartic. It was unreal how well executed it was. And some people might have gone like, "Oh yeah, I'm not going to watch all those. It's not worth my time." But as someone who enjoyed from start to finish, it was like crazy how good it was. And they finished it. Well, I thought they did. Endgame happened, and then we were all like, "What are they going to do now?" And then they kept going. And I'm sure there are people that do care. I don't.
I mean, I would say I enjoyed Guardians 3.
I heard it
Guardians,
was really good.
it's fun. It's a fun movie.
And that's the thing. I kind of I would like to think of them just kind of themselves now. I feel like they really did a good job tying everything in, and I kind of just want them to be themselves now.
Yeah. Well, so getting back to this idea of just closing the book on a chapter, when you prolong something like the Marvel series for whatever,
Yeah.
you repeat the same tropes over and over and over and over and over again. And then
Yeah.
I think people are noticing it's the Marvel formula where
It kind of is.
it's like the hero's cool, and then the hero runs into a problem, and then the problem leads to the villain, and then the villain and the hero sort of notice each other, and then the villain is like, I have this characteristic that makes me like this, and then the hero's like, I have this characteristic, I disagree, and then they fight,
I disagree.
and then the villain almost wins, but then all of a sudden there's a cool moment where the hero stands up, and then the theme plays, and then the
Yeah.
hero does whatever. I'm going to pull this out of my back pocket and
Mhm.
surprise attack. It's magical cards.
You know what's wacky about that though? And the Marvel formula makes it interesting to think about, because these are plots almost that have already happened
Yes.
in comic books. What's really beautiful about what the Marvel movies are doing is that they're taking what was really niche and they're making it available for everybody.
Yes.
that would rather watch a movie. And that is so cool that they did that. But how far can it go? You
Mhm.
know? It's kind of like I don't even know how to describe it, because that's what it is. It's really, these comic books had amazing stories, but only people who were alive back then or read it back then are going to care about it, because kids nowadays won't read the old Marvel comics, or at least to the extent where they get the whole story, and that's where the
Yep.
movies come in, right? But then there comes the other part, is Disney's also doing those remakes of live actions, or live actions of like remakes of movies we grew up with. Like, for example, Lion King did their live
Yep.
action. I didn't care to watch it, and if it was good, I'm glad that you liked it. I didn't, because I personally was more attracted to the idea of rewatching a classic.
Yeah.
But kids might not,
Sure.
or they'd rather just a live action.
Well, but then
How much can we
so
redo something?
but then here we are coming with the problems when it comes to movies like the backlash that came with The Little Mermaid,
Yeah,
the backlash that's now coming with Snow White.
that's right. I forgot about Snow White.
So then there's all of this that it's the thing is that sure, I would say Snow White is trying to tell an original story,
Yeah,
but a lot of people have made the critique that it's like, why call it Snow White?
yeah.
Why don't you call it something different?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you trying to say that it's a story that we already know, but you're changing it because you're trying to cash in on familiarity?
That's what it
Why
is
be
too.
familiar?
Yeah,
Why not make something new? Why don't even title it something new?
yeah. That's another big one, right? Is if you're gonna do that, there's almost no harm in making something completely new. However, that would probably make them less money,
Sure.
possibly, and I don't really know.
And oh no, the money.
Oh no, the money. Kind of always comes back to oh no, the money, which is another big thing all Cherry's worried about, because it's hard to cash in on originality because it's not safe. But
It's
that's the
very
best part about it.
That's the best part.
That's my favorite part about it, is that it's
Because
so
it's
unknown.
not safe because only certain people might like it. And then we get back to this idea that the people who like it are the people who we're going to want to connect with.
Yeah. The question is, when Wendy takes over the world, when Wendy is the overlord of the earth, will we know when to stop it?
I think we will,
I think we will.
because people will stop being interested in it. And then we'll
Yeah.
end the story.
Mm-hmm. And that's where another big thing is actually, that's another big one with some TV shows even. And I wouldn't know completely for this example, but I just got into Vampire Diaries. Okay, I know Liam gets so mad. It's such a good show. I heard by the end of the show, the seasons aren't very great. I wouldn't know yet. I'll get there. Don't spoil it. Don't say in the comments what happens. But either way, some shows do that. They keep milking it. They
Yeah.
just keep going, and it's like, when do you know? Do you know when to stop? You know.
Yeah.
But the money makes it hard to stop, I guess.
And I think that's where I was talking about milking it earlier.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely with Marvel, it's about the money. People will go and watch the movies anyways, just as a glimmer of hope that it'll give people the same feeling as they did when they were a child,
It's a
or
quick
they
high,
watched one
really.
movie.
Yeah.
And they will keep cashing in on it because they have popular actors, they have the budget to do it, and they continually make money on these movies and shows now on Disney, right? Like,
I think the only thing we can do, because it's a force to be
Yeah.
reckoned with, is this topic. The only thing we can do is understand the issue
yes,
and
talk about it.
continue to support originality.
Yes.
And people do that. We're not discounting that. We know people support originality, of course. People buy Wendy. People check out Artist Alley. Some people just go for specifically for Artist Alley.
Yep.
I think just after being there and it's been a while, just seeing this frickin' sea of people that would rather go look at the same anime drawing or anything, it's just hard to think, that things like Artist Alley could stay. And they will. I know they will. We'll persevere. It's just unfortunate.
Yeah, so now I think we should address this certain topic that
Okay.
we're all's cherry.
Yeah.
We're an original company trying to promote originality.
Yeah.
And why are we just not all saying this stuff just because we're mad that people aren't buying our stuff?
Why
Because
aren't
we're
we
not.
just saying that? We're not.
We're
and I
not.
mean, you can just
Because
take what we're saying with a grain of salt.
We're
but-
just taking this. There's a very simple critique to be done here,
Mhm.
and that it's you guys are just saying this because people aren't buying your work and originality would benefit you.
Sure.
And the first part is yes, it would, but it's deeper than that
Mm-hmm.
because I think even with what we're saying, we would want to end one of our series, even if it was making us a lot of money, even if it makes sense to end the series there.
Yeah.
So what if people really like it? We shouldn't continue a story just because people like it. You shouldn't just go and do a whole bunch of things because people like it. You should do things because you are you.
Uh huh. Well, you know what? I think we have 2 points that All's Cherry does
Yeah.
right now that can prove why it's not just that problem, or at least give some somewhat of an answer.
Yeah.
One, the anthology. If we wanted to make money, why would we be putting in the money to help others?
Sure.
First of all, like we are putting in a lot of effort and time and money in order to support other artists, and we make profit from that? I don't know. Hopefully, and we might, and we will actually, but we're doing it because we believe in originality in artists, and that's why we did it, and we're going to continue doing it. I'd like the anthology to be an annual thing. I plan on it. Another idea is such if it were so annoying that we weren't making enough money and we need to promote originality like this, it would be much more effective for us to just succumb to the formula.
Yes.
It would be much easier for us to not do this podcast and make something formulaic, but we're not.
Yeah.
And there's your answer, right?
Yeah.
And I guess that's sort of just to clear things up.
Well, and I think it's important to address that because it's important to address critique, and especially I would say commonly available critique.
Yeah.
That it's because if you can't get past a commonly available critique, then you're just being ignorant.
Yeah.
You're being ignorant in your action.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I think that's I think it's a good thing for us to bring up and talk about.
Well,
So,
what do you think?
I think we're at a pretty natural stopping point.
I think so. We were really excited to talk about this today.
Yeah, and this is obviously a lot more of a serious topic, and you just seen us rant for about an hour about this, but we really appreciate you taking the time to listen to us and listen to what we have to say, and then just think about it yourself. Tell us if you disagree. We would love for you to disagree with us and tell us in the comments below, because that's how we have a productive conversation and make a better community and make the world better and make better art.
That's right.
Yeah. So check us out on our link tree. We got our link tree below.
Yep.
Our socials, Corona Perch on Instagram, and are we doing Twitter now?
Oh yeah, we're on Twitter, Threads, all that stuff. Check her all out. It's all in the link.
Yep. Check out the All's Cherry. Check out the All's Cherry website. Apply to be
In the
an artist on our newsletter.
Yep.
Reach out to us. Connect with us. We really appreciate you all.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening.
Right. And we're off the perch.